Terry Hooks.
Thank you, and thank you all for coming, and thank you all for being out there in the hallway. We know you're out there. Thanks all for being here. Yeah, yay! Woo. Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about why we're here and who I am and all that, and who Act for America is and why we've descended upon your town. So, my name is Carrie Hooks. I was born and raised in Washington State, so even though I wasn't raised in concrete, I am a Washingtonian by birth. 20-year veteran of the Navy. I was a religious program specialist, and basically it was my job to support all religions. I've worked for rabbis, I've worked for Christian chaplains, I've worked for imams. I've worked for pretty much every kind of chaplain we have in the Navy. I've been overseas to the Middle East many times. I never had any problems, and I was kind of a dumb young girl, and I just thank God I'm alive. I did some dumb sailor things, you know.
We all do.
Yeah, we all do. And I've been involved with Act for America since 2007 when I was flipping channels, and I saw this Arab woman, and I thought, that's all I want to hear is an Arab bad-mouthing America. But I started listening to her, and I said, whoa, she's not bad-mouthing America. She's saying some things that are making sense. And you remember, my job, it was my job to know the major world religions. And so the things that weren't making sense that I didn't get from the military, she was connecting those dots, and I said, wow, she's making a lot of sense. And so I looked her up, and I found out that her name was Brigitte Gabriel, and she helped me understand, and then I started meeting and listening to some ex-Muslims and hearing their stories and reading a lot, and I learned a lot more. So I've been a chapter leader down in Pierce County since 2010, and I'm the newly appointed Washington State Director for Act for America. So thank you. So who are we? Well, this is who we are not. We are not a hate group, okay? We don't hate anyone, and we do not condone any acts of violence or harassment against anyone. Everyone has the right to believe what they want. Amen. We're not Nazis. I don't have swastika underwear on, I promise you. We're not a religious group. We are sectarian. We're non-sectarian, non-partisan. We have a very diverse membership. We have Jewish people, we have Sikhs, we have a few Muslims who support our cause, and we do not want a theocracy. I know there's been some chatter around town about some of the things that we want to do, and we don't want a theocracy because we love our Constitution, and we like it just the way it is, so that everyone can practice the way they want to practice. Or not practice. If you don't want to practice anything, you don't have to. Like I said, we don't call for harassment or violence against anyone. We don't fearmonger when we expose CAIR. Since when is telling the truth fear-mongering or hate speech? Right. We can tell the truth, but we should do it in love, which is one of the reasons why Sharam named his company the Truth in Love Project. And we don't criticize CAIR for advocating for Muslims. We criticize CAIR for their ties to Hamas, which is a State Department designated terrorist group. So who are we? Well, we were founded in 2007 by Brigitte Gabriel, and that's a picture of her. She was born and raised in Lebanon, and she's got a really interesting story if you care to, look at her book. We're nonpartisan, non-sectarian, diverse membership, and we have a grassroots organization that these are the things we're concerned with: human rights, national security, terrorism, and the threat of fundamental radical Islam and Sharia law. Because Sharia law is not just for Muslims. A lot of it has to do with non-Muslims. And did you want to live in a theocracy? I know I don't. And I don't want to live in an Islamic theocracy or a Christian theocracy or any other kind of theocracy. But Sharia law would advocate that. And unfortunately, in Washington State, we've had 4 cases that have gone to the courts that has used Sharia law, upheld Sharia law in 2 of the trial cases, in 2 trial courts. Now, thankfully, our appellate judges are doing their job and they overturned it. And then in the other 2 cases we had, the trial courts did not uphold Sharia law. It went to appeal, and the appellate court said, no, we're not going to, the trial court did right. They did not uphold this foreign theocratic law. So why are we here? Some people thought it was a rally, and we are here to support Mary. We're here because she was accused of bigotry with no evidence, except an allegation of a 13-year-old. She was tried and convicted in the court of public opinion with CAIR. They put it all over her Facebook. They've put her name all over their website. And this information has gone national. It's actually gone international. So if they were really interested in finding out the truth, they would have protected her name until the investigation was over. But they have not. They have demeaned her. They've smeared her good name. She's had 20 years of good service. And it's not fair. Aren't we innocent until proven guilty in this country? I mean, has it changed while I was away? So, and the thing that she wants to make sure that you know is that she was talking about groups like Hamas, the Taliban, and 35 of the other 51 groups that are on the terrorist list. Terrorists that try to use coercion, force and violence and threats of violence to impose their will on other people. So they were talking about bullies, so that makes sense to talk about these groups that do the same kind of thing. We're here to support Concrete. I love small towns. I grew up in a small town. It was about twice as big as yours, but there's nothing wrong with the way you guys think. You're fine. And you don't need someone from Seattle telling you how to think. I'm not from Seattle, by the way. CAIR has implied that y'all are bigoted and backwards, and I think that's wrong. You're good Americans. You're patriotic. You love your country. This has kind of hit you from out of the blue, and you're going, what the heck happened? So CAIR has implied that you're too stupid to understand Islam unless they come in and teach it to you. Yeah. So we are here to kind of give you some information to support Mary and to give you information about CAIR so that when they come with their meeting next week, you'll have some more information about who they are. I do want to say that CAIR does not speak for every Muslim, okay? In 2007, they only had 5,133 members in CAIR, okay? If there are 6 million, which we think is a made-up number, we think it's closer to 3 million Muslims in America. If there are 6 million, what's the percentage of 5,000 compared to 6 million? Let's just give them the benefit of the doubt. That's a drop in the bucket, okay? Excuse me. There are other Muslim groups like Zuhdi Jasser's American-Islamic Forum for Democracy that have no ties to Hamas or the Muslim Brotherhood, and they support what we're doing, and we work with groups like that. There's a whole coalition of Muslims who do support this, because we, like I said, we are not trying to say you can't practice your religion, you can't pray 5 times a day, or choose not to eat pork or alcohol. We're not saying that at all. But you can't come into our country and subvert our Constitution and impose your theocratic law on us. We're not going to have it. It's not that. So Mary, we want to support you. And I want to show you something. You see how packed this place is? I spent all night doing this. I went to bed at 6 a.m. These are all the people around the world that surround, that protect, that are supporting you. We will pick those up and give them to you. I have letters here from Malaysia, from the UK, from Australia, from Finland, Denmark, people around the world, Jerusalem. We even have one from a Muslim in there that says, I support you, or you are a woman of integrity. Okay, so it's not just concrete, you guys. It's our whole state, it's our whole country, and it's the whole world. When you're accused of something and you haven't done anything wrong, and you're being smeared in the media, we have to stand up together. Okay, so what's going on? On October 8th, Rachel's challenged assembly on anti-bullying. On the 29th, Mary had a discussion in her class on the historical bullies, including Hitler, Hamas, and the Taliban. During that discussion, a student brought up, or thought Ms. Janda was speaking about all Muslims, because what I've noticed is when you talk about a certain group, people's filters go, oh, you're talking about all Muslims. No, we're not. We're talking about these groups. So she explained that she was not talking about all Muslims or all Arabs. By the way, there are Arab Christians, there are Arab Jews, there are Chinese Muslims, Indonesian. Okay, so it's not just the Middle East. So the student said that her father was Muslim, and he went straight to CAIR. He didn't talk to Mary. He didn't talk to the school. Now, when I had a child in school, when we had a problem, I went straight to the teacher, and I asked her, why can't my child read? I didn't go to some outside organization and try and sue the school or launch an investigation. I said, what's going on here? And I tried to figure it out at the local level, because that's what we're taught in the military, take care of it at the lowest level. But he chose not to do that. So he went straight to CAIR. Maybe he didn't know that it was a Muslim Brotherhood front. Maybe he didn't know it's the civil rights arm of the Muslim Brother of Hamas. But he probably will now. So CAIR filed a complaint with the school district, and the school district did their investigation. And they didn't like the answer, so they have filed with the Department of Justice. So who's being a bully now? So I got to keep my notes because I get sidetracked, and we don't want to be here for hours. Okay, so that's kind of the overview of what happened. So here's the definition of a bully from Webster's and Wikipedia, which I don't usually use Wikipedia as a source, but you know, it was a good definition. So Webster says to affect by means of force or coercion. That sounds like CAIR. To use the use of force or coercion, or to abuse or intimidate others. You know, an investigation by the Department of Justice. That's a little intimidating to me. And here's the FBI definition of terrorism: the unlawful use of force or violence against persons or property to intimidate or coerce a government, the civilian population, or any segment thereof, in furtherance of political or social objectives. And by the way, I checked out the State Department list, and it was just kind of interesting that 35 of the 51 terrorist organizations are Islamic groups. Here is their website, and I want you to notice here, Hamas, and that was in 1997, and Hezbollah. Those are terrorist organizations according to our State Department. So when Mary Janda said Hamas is a bully, Hamas are terrorists, she was factually correct. So when is telling the truth hate speech? If you got a problem with it, talk with Mr. Perry now. So I'm going to read Mary's letter because I hate getting old. I can't see anything anymore. But I'm going to read this letter because it's important that Mary's side gets out, because CAIR sure has made sure that their side got out, even without verifying it. December 12, 2012, Barbara Hawkins, Superintendent. I'll ignore the address, how about that? Allegation of religious insensitivity. Dear Superintendent Hawkins, this written recounting of events which gave rise to this allegation of religious insensitivity comes as a result of your emailed request to me on November 26, 2012. As you may recall, Concrete School District students in grades 6 through 8 attended a Rachel's Challenge Assembly on October 8, 2012. Rachel's Challenge promotes anti-bullying practices by sharing the story of the first high school student killed during the Columbine High School tragedy in April 1999. This national program focuses on acts of kindness and understanding and helps develop an awareness of how individuals feel when they are mistreated. Participating students are asked to make a change in the way they interact with their peers and become aware of fellow students who are alone, left out of activities, or those who are being bullied. The program discourages bullying and encourages students to stand up for those who are being bullied. As a part of and in conjunction with that national program, I relate stories, news items, or histories of people who have suffered at the hands of bullies as a reminder for all of us to be kind to each other. By way of example, our school lost a student last year due to a car accident. His death had a huge impact on our students. We discussed the fragility of life and how important it is to live intentionally. In addition, I shared my own sister's public school experience of verbal abuse because of her handicap. As an extension of the program, some of the students volunteered to share their own experience of having been hurt by bullying. These discussions sometimes lead to students writing me personal notes, and I respond to each one. That information is kept private. As a further extension, and to keep the purpose of the program fresh in the students' minds, I had the class start a chain of kindness, which has students record a kind deed they saw another student doing. These kind deeds are hung in the classroom. On October 29th, the day of the class discussion referenced in the allegation, I asked a question about who knew about Hitler or who he was. I was surprised at the lack of awareness. A few students offered what they knew, and the discussion led to some members of groups who employ extreme acts such as Hamas and the Taliban. And by the way, the Taliban is not on the list, but it is who we're fighting in Afghanistan. The information I shared was from a former extremist group member who had been indoctrinated to kill a Jew or Christian that would make him a martyr. He was trained in this area, as a young teen, and subsequently did murder people, but subsequently changed his life. The point I was attempting to make was the connection that people who intend on imposing their will on others are bullies, whether they be Nazis or others, whether they be students or adults. I was very clear that I was not talking about Muslim believers or Arabs in general, but that they were trained to kill, that were trained to kill groups that bombed and attacked people and did not care that innocent people were being killed. I have shared this idea before, emphasizing treating others as we want to be treated, which is a class-developed norm. When the student raised her hand and said, "My father is a Muslim and these statements are not true," I explained to her again that I was not talking about Arabs or Muslims in general, but about groups that chose to impose their will by training people to intimidate and kill other people. This discussion was not about religious beliefs. It is related to a state mandate that public schools teach about bullying and not allow it. I am surprised and saddened that no one from the family contacted me about the students' perception of that day's discussion. I would have hoped to have an opportunity to personally recount the substance of that day's work and engaged in a dialogue to dispel any misinterpretations. Likewise, I'm also surprised that the organization filing the complaint, which is CAIR, did not contact me to hear my account of the class discussion before publicly criticizing me and my employer. I had absolutely no intention of, nor did I disparage anyone's religious beliefs, and I regret any lingering misunderstandings. Sincerely, Mary Janda, teacher, Concrete Elementary. Now, I know that's hard for you to read, but I put that up there, and I think I only messed up a couple times. So I want to ask you a question. Does the allegation sound like it is consistent with Mary's character? Because I don't even know Mary very well, but just by reading that letter, I said, wow, she sounds like a really kind person. So does it sound like it jives with her character? No. I don't think so either. It sounds like Mary's gone out of her way to make sure that nobody felt disparaged. So is it at all possible that maybe this young girl who feels protective of her father because he's probably maybe the only one in the community that's a Muslim, maybe she might have misinterpreted what Mary was saying, despite Mary's attempt to say, I'm not talking about all Muslims, I'm just talking about these particular groups? Is it at all possible that maybe she gets information at home that would contradict what the State Department says about terrorism and Hamas. You know, that whole one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter kind of information. I'm just asking these questions. I'm not saying I know anything about it. But is it possible? So, I know there have been some concerns about us coming out here. I know that some of you have said it doesn't matter what CAIR says. Who cares what they say? And normally, that's how we deal with stuff like this. But Sharon's going to talk about why it does matter and why they won't go away until they get what they want. We shouldn't have meetings about this problem. It just encourages them to keep after this town. They're going to keep after this town because you're a small town, because they think you're ignorant, because they think you're backwards and bigoted. I don't think you are, but you might not have some of the information, especially about this group. What's wrong with learning about Middle Eastern culture? Well, first of all, Islam is not Middle Eastern culture. Like I said, the largest Muslim country in the world is Indonesia. Last time I checked the map, it's not in the Middle East. The Middle East has many different cultures, okay? It's got Christians there, it's got different tribes, like they had Persians there, which we call Iran now. A lot of different varieties of things, and Islam does not have a monopoly on Middle Eastern culture. It's fine to learn about what people believe, okay? I have no problem with people learning, you know, what different religions believe. It's what I did in the Navy. I learned about all different religions. I didn't agree with them, but I didn't put them down. It's just what they believe, because everyone's got that right, right? So CAIR seems so benign and nice. Well, of course they do. They're just advocating for a misaligned minority and only asked for an investigation. Of course, I mean, they're not going to get any traction if they come in here screaming, if they come in here, you know, threatening. So of course, they have learned to play the victim card very, very well. So if you are talking with them, if you do have any discussion with them, never be threatening or aggressive, even if you're angry, okay? Because they will take that as a threat, and you're threatening them because they're Muslim, even though that's got nothing to do with it. So why didn't the Father keep this local instead of bringing in outsiders? Outsiders. We're outsiders. Did you know that, Sean? We're outsiders. I'm from Washington, too. That's a good question. That probably would have been preferable, because you know what I'd be doing right home? I'd be celebrating being done with finals. But I'm up here, made the 3-hour drive, because we wanted to give you information about this group, because I do not want to see you guys steamrolled by CAIR, and that's what they will do. They will steamroll right over you and your school district, and they will demand that you teach your kids Islam according to what they believe, that you teach your teachers their approved course. And Sharon's going to go over their list of demands.
Thank you for coming.
You're welcome. God bless you. You guys, I'm standing right there with you, okay? I had a town hall meeting down in Puyallup where we talked about Islam in the textbooks. If you don't think Islam is here, it's here. Like I said, it's not a problem to learn about what people believe. But 7 chapters of Islam in your textbook, 3 pages on Christianity and how horrible those crusaders were, a paragraph on Judaism, and Hindus and Buddhists get to share a paragraph. I don't think that's very balanced. So CAIR showed up to that. And I recognized them because I look at their website, so I know who I'm dealing with. And they showed up because they were afraid we're going to tell people to, you know, hate Muslims or beat them up, or I don't know what they thought we were going to say. But I told them, I said, you have every right to believe what you want to believe. That's not the problem. But if you think you're going to come into my country and circumvent my constitution and implement Sharia law, you got another thing coming. Amen. We will resist you with everything we've got. Don't drink alcohol. I don't drink alcohol. That's not a big deal. Pray 5 times a day. I don't care. That's fine. But you're not going to bring your law into our country. Right. So isn't this just fear-mongering? Have you guys heard any fear from me? Any hate? I don't hate anyone. But I'm not going to let these people come in and steamroll your town and threaten and extort your school district without giving you some information so you can stand up to them. And can't we just give peace a chance? I'd love to. I would love to. But that's not their intent. And Sharam is going to talk about the goals of this group, because they're not just one group. You'll hear more about that. So Rick's going to introduce Sharam, and that's my part of the presentation. And I'll be willing to talk with you guys and answer questions at the end. So if you have any questions, hold on to them till the end, and we'll answer them as best we can. Okay?